So we've all heard about the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell really made it famous within our culture. And if you go on the internet, you can find there are 10 steps in it, there are 12 steps in it. It doesn't really matter. But one of the important steps that sometimes doesn't get a lot of attention is the hesitation on the hero's journey. So what happens? The hero gets presented with a challenge and says, maybe not, or not now, or maybe later, or in a couple of months, right? Well, in the therapeutic world, we would call that resistance. And the problem with both words, hesitation and resistance, is they have some judgment about them. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is trying to take that judgment out of the picture and understand what that part of the process is about. But what's an interesting digression before we get into that is that there's this idea that the older you get, the harder it is to change. I don't think that's true. I think actually the older you get, the more experience you have. And in a way, it's not easy to change, but it's easier from the perspective that you've been through some things, right? You may not get thrown as much as you would have if you were 10 or 20 or 30 years younger. The problem when you get to be 40 or 50 or 60 or older is that you have built up a reputation. You have built up a social infrastructure. There's all this stuff around you that defines who you are. And you may have gotten past, the titles in business and the external trappings and so forth, but still there's a way people see you, in a way you're used to being seen, even if it is in some sort of sublime misery that you experience in your life. You know where you are. And so when you get the challenge, however it comes, all of that gets put into play. And I think that's the thing that makes it more difficult for older people, not the fact that we become somehow ossified, but that we have sort of a larger array of people and institutions that see us in a particular way. Okay, so what's the hesitation about? Well, first of all, you can get presented with the challenge. Let's say, I want a new relationship, or I want a different job. That's how usually things come up. And when you get into that, you discover that there's something in you, a basic value in you that has not been expressed. And that could be anything from traveling across the country to attend an aromatherapy conference when you're actually in the banking sector, or it could mean taking a dance lesson when that's not something anybody would ever expect you to do. And those things begin to break loose some other things, and the potential for change gets bigger. So somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that, and you think, I'm not so sure. Well, that hesitation really is about a gathering. It's about allowing that idea to percolate and take shape and take form. And so a lot of the people that I work with come into this kind of work with just that little germ of an idea. And it usually has come up in a dream or an association to a dream. To rush headlong into that, in spite of this sense that, well, I'm not quite ready, is foolish. Because you really do need to build the emotional infrastructure within yourself. And most often, dreams will guide you. Okay, that's one kind of hesitation. There's a whole other kind of hesitation. That is, you say, okay, I'm signing up. I'm ready. I'm going to make this change, but I don't really know what it is. I just know there's some dissatisfaction, there's some desire, there's some feeling in me that wants attention, that wants resolution, wants a partner, wants a vocation or avocation that really speaks to me. But I don't know what it is. And lo and behold, in the midst of all this, you stop remembering your dreams. So, if you were working with me and dreams had been sort of the signpost of the work that we do, all of a sudden you don't have any dreams. Well, it doesn't mean you're not dreaming. It just means that the conversation between you and your dreamer has gotten to a point where there needs to be some external action. And you say, well, yeah, that's great, but I don't know what it's supposed to be. Well, there's a place between the dream state and the let's call it cognitive state, which we might call marginal thoughts. They're at the edge of your awareness. They're the things that you reject constantly, like that aromatherapy conference, right? You say, yeah, no, I can't do that. It seems completely impossible. You got to pick one. You just got to try it. Nobody's going to die. Everything's going to be okay. But you need some kind of experience to kind of kickstart that conversation back up. Because what's happening is your hesitation is not resistance. It's not that you don't want to. It's literally that there's an aspect of you that you have pushed aside for so long that it's really having a problem getting back into awareness. And then also, I always go back to, what I think is a wonderful metaphor from Robert Bly, which is that you've taken all these aspects of yourself and put them in this long black bag that you're hauling around, right? And it sounds wonderful that you're going to go in there and take some of them out, but the process of taking them out is not so happy because they've been dragged around in the big, long black bag for a long time. They're not happy. So the reintegration process is bumpy and sometimes scary. And sometimes you find yourself manifesting behaviors that are completely out of character, generally anger. Because a lot of this stuff is out of awareness. So really what I want to say today is that hesitation is an important part of the process. It is not something to judge yourself about and say, oh, gee, I can never quite get this done, and so on and so forth. That's not, first of all, it's not true, and it's not useful. There is an issue, though. How do you know when hesitation is really your way of saying, I don't want this. I'll take the misery. I'm good. I know what that is. I don't want to disrupt things. Well, there's really two ways of understanding that. One is there may be circumstances in your life, like you're raising kids and you can't pick up stakes and go to the Himalayas. That's real. And that's true. And that's something where you do have to put off some part of your life because you made a commitment. So that hesitation may be as a result of some external circumstances that's going to just stop you. More often, because you can always figure that kind of stuff out. I've known people who picked up their whole families and gone to the Himalayas, actually. More likely, it really comes down to a real decision about whether you want to step forward in your life. And so how do you know what's what? How do you know whether the hesitation is really you're just trying to build the infrastructure and gather yourself versus rejecting? Well, more often than not, it is because you will not remember your dreams and continue not to remember your dreams over a long period of time because your dream is basically like nobody to talk to. So that's something I tend to look at, not in the short term, because in the short term, it happens all the time. In the short term, you will stop your dream life while you go and have some experience, and that will kickstart the conversation again. But if you just decide to shut it down, your dream will mourn that and stop talking to you because there's nobody to talk to. So, bottom line, hesitation is not a bad thing. It needs to be reframed in your mind as an important part of your process that allows you to really prepare yourself before anybody else. Prepare yourself to say, okay, what's powering me through this, what's driving me through this is far more important than the upset somebody might have because I'm not who they thought I was. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope you honor your hesitation going forward. Take care of yourself.